Hello, I am very sorry for the late arrival of these videos. As mentioned in my previous video, I was having some technical difficulties with my phone, and I didn't really figure it out. I was testing it out, and it kind of started working again. So we're gonna get this out here before anything else starts happening. This video is going to be a double feature, as even though Locke and Celes, I am very late on doing them, I still want to get these two out and get my opinions on them and whatnot, as their banner is still up, and hopefully I can still offer some assistance if you guys are still deciding if you want to pull. And then we will also be doing Vaan and Basch, as they are our two newest releases that have came out. It was 2 days ago. They came out 2 days ago. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start off with Celes. Now, Celes got a level 70 Awakening, Rework, and EX+. Pretty much, we're just going to kind of keep this short and simple. Her rework just kind of improved what she already did. Gave her some better utility to the party in the form of heals and Brave Battery. Increasing the potencies of her buffs. She offers 4 of them, as well as the damage that she does with her HP Attack Plus. She gets an HP Attack Plus as well, and her EX Plus is kind of the standard fare until it gets to the third part, which is starts out with a 2-hit HP attack, then followed by a 6-hit HP attack. So it helps her do much more damage, and pretty much that's pretty much just that. So how is Celes for the Chaos era? Keeping it nice and simple. So unfortunately, in the case of Celes, she is half of a tank because she only tanks magical damage. She only absorbs magical damage. So with that being said, she only works against magical bosses that offer magical damage. So that is literally going to lock her out of half of the content in the game, because if there are any bosses that do physical damage, honestly, there's someone always better to bring than Celes. Now, what she does extremely well. If there is any magical bosses that you are going up against and you have Celes built, she will trivialize the fight, pretty much. And that's pretty much a majority of all the Trials fights, except for, I think, Odin, because Odin is physical. But most of our ultimate trials, they do magic damage, so she pretty much just negates them almost entirely. So if it comes to a magic boss, you trivialize it. But unfortunately, any physical boss will pretty much make it so, like, there's always someone better to bring than Celes. If she actually resisted any form of physical damage, I feel like that would make her much better, but it would make her a little too powerful. I feel like that's something, though, that they could bring in with the incorporation of an LD for her in the future. Hopefully she gets something like that. So important for the Chaos era? Not really, because she's locked out of half the content as it stands now. If you do choose to build her up, she is an expensive build. 3 out of 3. She must be 3 out of 3 just to do pretty much what she's going to do and bring the damage that she's going to need in order to sufficiently supply the team with the proper means of damage and heals and battery and tanking. She's not a bad character by any means, so don't take me saying no, she's not important, as she's not bad. She's a niche tank, unfortunately, but she fits that niche super well, and she trivializes any magical. But we're gonna be that pretty, like I said, that locks her out literally at half the content in the game. So you just make sure that you're using her for what she's best at, and you'll have no problems there. But she will be locked out of a lot of things, and that kind of does hurt because she's an expensive build. So just make sure you're cautious of that. If she's a favorite of yours, by all means, go ahead and build her up. But just make sure you are aware of what's to come when building Celes. Moving on to Locke. Locke, for me, has always been a forgettable character. Not really too sure why he's charming and charismatic, but I just don't really pay attention to him all that much. But all he got was an EX Plus, because he got a previous rework, level 70 Awakening, and whatnot. And his EX Plus is standard fare until it gets to 3 out of 3, which will execute his EX twice and do 20% splash damage to the other enemies. That's pretty much it. Okay, so how is Locke for the Chaos era? The thing Locke is, he has physical and magic DPS. So, that does hinder him a little bit if the boss resists one or the other. Now it's a little better on the magic side, because his magic is only linked to his Phoenix Ray second ability. But at that point, you're always going to try and bring someone better than him in the terms of that, if you're going up against someone that resists magical damage, because we have plenty of straight melee damage DPS to get the job done. So that's kind of the gist of it, though. He does power creep a lot of our damage dealers currently because he does do a lot of damage and he does it well, and he offers great utility in the form of off healing and whatnot. The thing with Locke, though, however, is it's nothing really. What he's bringing is nothing special, and he doesn't synergize well with supports that offer multiple buffs to the party, as he has 4 framed buffs to himself. So he works better with characters that offer 1 or 2 buffs and pretty much just auras. Super powerful on the DPS side, though. He is very, very good, very well known for the damage that he can bring to the team. How is he for the Chaos Era? I'm going to be honest, he's not really all that important. While he does bring a lot of damage to the table, he's a dime a dozen DPS character who hits hard, and like I said, he power creeps a lot of characters. But, he's not doing really anything all that special. He's just hitting hard, his skills changing and whatnot, and that's pretty much that. Fantastic character, though. Great to build up if you do. He is an expensive build at his EX of 3 out of 3. And whatnot. So you do need to have that 3 out of 3 in order to get the best use out of him. But not really all that important for the Chaos Era, but he's a fantastic character and someone really good to build up if he is a favorite of yours, or if you just choose to try and build for him. But don't dig too far, because like I said, there are better options coming in the future, and if you have good DPS, you can survive without him for now. And now, let's move on to Vaan and Basch. My apologies, there will be a little cut. I just had to step away and do something really quickly. But let's get right back into it. So with Vaan, Vaan got a level 70 Awakening, Rework, and EX Plus with the release of Basch's event. Pretty much his Rework allows him to gain Brave based off of 50% of the damage dealt after each of his attacks, which makes it so he can set up his next hit in each of his abilities to do more damage, and as well as keep him safe from taking breaks, as he's going to be dishing out a shit ton of attacks almost at all times. His EX Plus is kind of just standard fare. Increase hits, increased potencies, increased stats and stuff like that. Increased buffs and whatnot. Which his EX Plus at 3 out of 3 gives him access to an HP Attack Plus, which is sorely needed for his longevity. So that's pretty much it. So the thing with Vaan is he is locked to 4 elements: ice, holy, wind, and fire. And if the boss resists any of those, it's going to hinder his damage output greatly. With that being said, as well, his longevity is still an issue, as he only has 6 out of 6 on both of his skills. So with that being said, or as it stands right now, Vaan is not all that important. While he is one of the highest single target DPS units in the game right now currently, because he just does a shit ton of damage. If you aren't using him properly, he's going to burn out his steam before he's actually doing anything useful. He does have some good utility with a blind mechanic and built in his second skill, and his HP Attack Plus, which is a 2-hit physical attack that has 150% overflow. Is actually a pretty good skill. It's just Vaan burns out way too quickly before he's doing anything that is really useful for the party. We could talk about Vaan as a future investment, though, however, really quickly, because he did get an LD and a burst on the JP side. And LD alone, it gives him 3 turns of free skills. So that's 9 free skill usages on top of everything that he's doing. So Vaan becomes a blitzing machine as a future investment. His burst isn't really needed. It does a shit ton of single target damage, and that's pretty much what Vaan excels at, is single target damage. So as it stands right now, Vaan is not all that important for the Chaos Era right now. His longevity and the 4 elements are an issue. But he becomes much better and becomes a super force to reckon with when he gets his LD and burst on the JP, on global, when that comes way in the future. But he will still run into the same issue of the 4 elements locking him out of fights, so just make sure you're cautious of that. That's pretty much it with Vaan. He is an expensive build as well, again, being a 3 out of 3, just for the additional stuff that he's going to need. And now let's move on to Basch Ron Vaan. I fucked it up. Anyway, so what Basch brings to the table is a tank. He offers HP damage reduction to the party, and he allows any HP damage to be surely focused on him, which is actually really cool. He does have a lock, he does have brave regen, he does have heals that he can offer to the party, and as well as himself. His EX is a pretty powerful EX. then offers a new a frame buff to him as well. And at 3 out of 3, it will execute a 6-hit HP attack followed by a 4-hit HP attack. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is, and whatnot. So that's kind of the gist of Basch. He initiates Locke, so he takes all the damage, and even on AoE damage, all the HP damage is focused on him. This way you can keep your team nice and alive. So he's a niche tank in a sense, and the HP damage reduction is nice, and with his EX plus, it gives him the ability to survive a hit at 1 HP, which is incredible. So if they do somehow hit you with an attack that's actually going to kill Basch, which is insane because Basch has a fuck ton of HP, you know, he will survive it regardless, and he can heal himself right up. So like, you can even just ditch the idea of a healer because he could do the healing himself, and no one else is going to get hurt with him around. So how is Basch for the Chaos Era? So Basch is actually a pretty good unit. His tanking is considered niche because it just does something a little different, but it's not really all that niche in general, because he does what a tank is supposed to do. He takes all the damage to himself, and he reduces that damage that he receives. So, but the only downside that I would feel that Basch really has is that his the buffs that he gives himself don't really last long, and the lock is only for 3 turns, so you have to make sure you're using skills in order to keep his frame buff, which offers the HP damage reduction, and the lock on the enemies. This way Basch can fulfill his role. So he probably will burn through some of his skills a little more quickly than what a lot of people like, but if you use it properly and, you know, micromanage all that stuff, he'll do fairly well for you. He's very good at keeping your party alive because that's pretty much the point. And they're not getting hit, and he's getting hit, and he can survive attacks at 1 HP, and he can just heal himself right back up to full. Basch is a fantastic character in his own right, and he's one of the very few tanks that is actually being offered to us right now. So, how is he for the Chaos Era, importance-wise? Importance-wise, I would say he's pretty important in his own right. Compared to Wall and Zach, who we'll be getting in the future, he does things a little differently. I'm not comparing him to Celes because we know how Celes is. She's only magic tank, whereas he is a general tank. Compared to those two, I feel like he can fight as one of the top contending tanks. I would just say the only thing that he doesn't have compared to someone like Zach, where Zach is more of an offensive tank, is just the damage. But he's kind of, I would say he's middling in between. Wall is more of a defensive support tank. Basch is kind of like in between, doing, you know, the supportiness and, you know, damage and tanking. And Zach is our offensive tank who takes all damage to himself while taking almost nothing. So yeah, I feel like Basch is pretty important, especially since tanks are very underused, very underrated. I feel like he can hold his own, and he'll keep your party alive and keep them alive. That's the point of his role. He does get an LD in the future when his Lost Chapters does return, which pretty much just exemplifies everything that he does. So as a future investment, Basch is pretty goddamn good too. So if you choose to build Basch von Rosenberg, I did it right that time, almost fucked it up. If you do choose to build up Basch, he is a 3 out of 3 as well. Everyone is a 3 out of 3 as of late, because you just need the additional stuff that the EX Plus offers in order for him to really shine. So yeah, that'll do it. I'm sorry that these videos are not as detailed as I usually like to, you know, try to make them to be, but as I am a little late, I'm trying to jam-pack everything into one video and just give like a quick summary analysis. We'll go back to our usual format with the next release of the next characters and whatnot. And really quickly, before we close out the video, I would just like to say Merry Christmas. If you do not celebrate Christmas, I hope you still had a very happy holidays, very happy days. You guys are fantastic, and I hope you guys had the best of days. But to close out the video, Celes, not so important. Locke, not so important. Vaan, not so important, but as a future investment, kicks a lot of ass and is really hard hitting. And Basch von Rosenberg is important in his own way, as he is a tank, and will continue that importance later on in the future when he gets his LD. So that sums it up. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like I said, I hope you guys had a very Merry Christmas, a very happy day, a very happy holiday, whatever you guys celebrate, whatever you guys do. I hope everything was still merry and jolly and all that good stuff. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll get back at it soon. Working out the kinks on my Basch run, because I have a very awesome way of showing off a good idea that I've had. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.